Hello and welcome to the Biomass Magazine podcast. I'm your host, Anna Simet. We are here at the International Biomass Conference and Expo in Nashville, Tennessee. On the trade show floor, I have with me Chandler de Jong from CV Technology. Chandler, hello and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Chandler, I think to start, let's have you tell our viewers about CV Technology and then yourself.
Absolutely. CV Technology, we're a leading manufacturer of explosion protection equipment. We have been in business since 1994, and we're based out of Jupiter, Florida. So that's about an hour and a half north of Miami on the southeast coast. We have offices and coverage all over North America and South America. We have a new office that we recently opened in Brazil, actually. And we also have a consulting side that does DHAs, or dust hazard analyses, risk assessments, HACs, or hazardous area classifications, and dust testing.
Okay. And then what's your specific role?
I'm a sales engineer with CV Technology, so I design and sell a lot of the equipment on the equipment side of things.
Oh, very cool. Okay. So Chandler, biomass facilities, they deal with combustible dust every day. Where do you see operators still underestimating the risk?
Yeah, absolutely. So operators have really come a long way in understanding where risks lie within these biomass processes, which is always great to see in our experience. And in terms of the risks themselves, you have a couple different ways to look at things, right? So the first thing that jumps to mind would be understanding just where ignition hazards are present within a process. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a sec, but
Yeah.
things like dryers, mills, and pellet coolers are all fairly common places where ignition sources are located. But the other thing that might get overlooked a little bit is really in terms of process maintenance and management systems. So good housekeeping is always a really crucial thing when it comes to managing risk, grounding and bonding, and overall cleanliness of the plant. Another thing that is a little more specific to biomass is if pellets sit in silos or pellet coolers for a long time without cleaning, that can lead to some smoldering and self-heating risks as well.
All right. Thank you. So let's talk about the most common points in plants where fires or explosions tend to start.
Yeah. Again, like I had just mentioned, those common ignition sources like dryers, hammer mills, and pellet mills are all high impact areas. And so there's a lot of elevated temperatures that come out of that equipment and can drive the ignition energy of material and combustible dust. So it's really important to keep those in mind. A big one, also specific to biomass itself, would be cyclones pulling off of dryers. So if you have material that can cake up inside of a cyclone and it starts pulling hot air off of a dryer, that can become more of a fire hazard than an explosion hazard, but that hazard is still present there.
Okay.
And then ignition sources upstream can cause explosions downstream. So we talked a little bit about how those ignition sources of hammer mills and dryers and things of that nature are present, but it's the equipment downstream where the explosion hazard can be a little more prevalent. So if a hammer mill has a plenum attached to it, that explosion is much more likely to start in the plenum itself because that spark will travel downstream and ignite the dust explosion. Same goes for a dust collector or a filter pulling off of a hammer mill plenum. And really that's just because 4 of the 5 combustible dust explosion elements are present in those areas at all times. So that would be oxygen, dispersion, confinement, and fuel. And then, conveyors are also really common pieces of equipment within biomass facilities. So there are some explosion hazards. Again, there's fugitive dust that can be suspended in the air in conveyors, and they have a lot of fast-moving parts. So bearings and belts that are moving at Mach speeds to move material around and through the process. That being said, we're seeing a lot of biomass plants really make an effort to protect that equipment, conveyors with explosion vents, and there's just been a lot more awareness in the industry recently, which is always great to see.
Right, no doubt. It's such a critical topic. Okay, so how has explosion protection evolved in recent years, especially as plants are scaling up or handling more variable feedstocks?
Yeah, in the industry, it's always growing. The economy is always getting bigger, and so plants have to get bigger to take into account a lot of that growth in the economy. In terms of explosion protection itself, other than continuous development in active systems, which involves things like controller interfaces, optical detectors that look for light associated with explosions, or pressure detectors that sense pressure spikes that are characteristic of explosions. Explosion protection has not changed too much in recent years. What we have seen, though, is that there's a lot more emphasis in gearing towards DHAs, right? So the Duster hazard analysis focus is being driven from people like NFPA, insurance companies, and code officials who are really pushing for facilities to get that work done. And what we've seen is that it's been really helpful in helping operators and plant owners understand and have some control over what hazards are present in their process. And it really gives them an ability to create an action plan with tiered steps to address the hazards within their plant.
Great answer. So for operators, how do they balance the cost of protection systems with the risk of downtime or catastrophic events?
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about catastrophic events, right, we really can't put a cost on the safety of plant operators and plant workers. Human life is ultimately invaluable, so it's really hard to put a number there. But in terms of balancing the cost of explosion protection, it's really crucial, like we talked about with DHAs, that they help to create an action plan. So if you actually conduct a DHA and a risk assessment at the same time, the DHA will outline where your hazards are, what safeguards you have in place, and where additional safeguards are needed. And the risk assessment will tell you what the likelihood and consequence of an event happening in different parts of your plant are.
Okay.
So when those are combined, at the end of the report, you can get a risk matrix with a priority list that will prioritize exactly where the immediate safeguards need to be addressed. And so this is really useful for plant management and even on a corporate level, understanding how to allocate funds for safety programs that can extend, 5-10 years in the future to make sure that safety is being taken account for the plants.
DHAs are mandatory now, aren't they, too, for pellet plants?
Yes. So NFPA 660 has it mandated that they're renewed once every 5 years.
Got it. Okay. So CV technology offers everything from spark detection to explosion isolation and suppression. What sets your approach or technology apart from the other solutions on the market?
Yeah, bit of a loaded question there, right?
It is.
I mean, I've yet to meet a manufacturer who doesn't have the best price, lead time, or quality of equipment.
Right.
But in terms of CV tech, we really like to take a consultative approach to our customer service. So as a sales engineers, we're really interested in learning about our customers' process, the ins and out of their priorities, and really trying to make sure that we're a good match and we can meet or exceed their expectations with our product line or our consulting services. So it's really all about that consultative approach and looking out for what's best for the customer.
Right. Okay, so if you could give plant managers one piece of advice to improve their safety as soon as they could, what would it be?
Yeah. I would say, why wait till tomorrow? Why not start today?
Right.
But, with plants, especially like we talked about earlier, running for the increased growth of the economy, a lot of these plants are running harder. So equipment is wearing out faster. There's a lot more strain and stress, creating more risks present in all these biomass facilities. And so it's crucial to have the necessary safety steps in place in terms of explosion protection. But if you don't know where to start, I would say go get a DHA, right? That's the first piece of the plan. So it's a great idea to have a DHA done, especially with that risk assessment to help you prioritize where to focus your efforts on a plant level. And I will add that it is good to have your DHA conducted by a certified PE with process experience, because that's a really big value adder in terms of creating that safety plan. If you're doing it just to check a box, you may not get that extra safety value that can help you create those plans for your plant and your process for the future, revolving around safety. So
Great. So they should call you guys.
they should.
And how do people get a hold of you?
Reach out to us through our website, call, email. We'll get back to you within a day. So.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, this has been a great discussion, Chandler. Anything else that you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, I'll just say thank you very much for having me. It's been my pleasure to be on the panel today, and come stop by booth 211 and check us out.
Yeah, well, it's such a critical topic. Thanks again for joining the podcast. And to our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Until next time.